There's so much elaborate choreography. When are we going to all break into a Chi-Lights dance or something? Because we've been wandering around this stage in all different configurations. This is such an amazing moment to have these two friends and colleagues, peers, standard bearers. I heard a good term. Joni Mitchell wrote a book about her recently, calls Bob Dylan her pace setter. So I'm going to say y'all are pace setters for each other as far as pushing each other and looking toward each other for inspiration. To have these two together is such an amazing thing, and I just have to say kudos to Alabama Humanities Alliance for giving them this award. The first time musicians have ever won this award in Alabama, which is freaking crazy, but I'm glad y'all won it. And bringing them together. So I'm very happy to be here with both of you tonight. I guess we'll start talking about your origins a little bit. You two grew up about an hour away from each other, although 10 years difference in age. Jason, you're born in Green Hill, in the Shoals area you were raised, and of course, Athens for you. So when most people like myself, who are not from the South, hear about Alabama, they think it's one thing, you know? I don't know what they think it is, but they think it's one thing. Maybe they saw a movie and they think it's a shack, or maybe they saw Nick Saban and thought it was the Tide, or maybe they went to the beach once and they think it's that one thing. But Alabama is a lot of different things. And I wanted to ask you about growing up specifically in North Alabama, in this part of the state, and how the specifics of this place formed you as people. I'll throw that to you.
Okay. First off, it's an honor to be here. My family's here tonight. I love y'all. Yeah, growing up in North Alabama, especially my little town of Athens.
It's actually being sponsored by the Athens Appreciation
being sponsored by
Society
Athens.
here.
There's a lot of diversity, a lot of different kind of folks there. That's something I couldn't appreciate till I left home. People who have everything, people who have nothing. And I got to experience all kinds of people. And I had a lot of friends from a lot of different backgrounds. And I'll say one thing we had in common is we're trying to figure out, especially when we're young, trying to figure out how to get out, you know? We're like, oh, it's gonna be so much better out there, you know? That's what we thought because we're young and we've never seen anything. But as time goes on, I appreciate it so much growing up how I did, rolling hills and the pastures, and the cows and the chickens, and you know what I'm saying? It's just like the farms and the farmer kids and the trucks and the dirt bikes and the creeks and going fishing at night. Just all that kind of stuff, I really appreciate it because it builds a lot of character. And it definitely toughens you up for this world. But one thing I love the most is the people in Athens. I miss it. Every time I come back here, I really do feel like I'm home. And I don't know what else to say. I'm going to pass it over to you.
I feel like I should talk about Athens, too, just because you have so many people here who are... I remember driving to Athens to get on the interstate. It was fantastic.
Did you go to the Starbucks when you were...
That Subway right there, that's where I used to meet up with the truckers. Yeah, you got cows and chickens, you do. But we only had cows and chickens in Green Hill. That was the difference.
Right about that.
No, I got really lucky because I was close to my family, and a lot of members of my family played music. And that was my access to everything. You know, everybody in the family worked. My parents were young when I was born. And I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and there was just music everywhere. I remember the first time I went and stayed with somebody at their house when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I remember saying, "Where's your guitar?" You know, and he said, "We don't have a guitar." I said, "You don't have a guitar?" It's like not having a refrigerator, you know. I thought everybody had a guitar. And, you know, I started to realize over time that I was really fortunate because that's how we shared time with each other, and that's the things that we talked about and the things that we enjoyed. And almost everybody in my family played some sort of musical instrument, not really professionally, just as a thing to do with each other and a way to communicate and a way to pass the time. And I grew up with a lot of people who were in sort of similar situations. I mean, there was an inordinate number of people from Green Hill, Alabama that wound up being professional musicians. And part of that, I think, was that we didn't have a whole awful lot else to do, And I'm 45, so the kind of trouble that we could get in a cow pasture then wasn't necessarily as intense as the kind of trouble you can get in a cow pasture now, And I feel very, very lucky for that too, to tell you the truth. Things have changed, and the time when I was growing up and the people that I was growing up around, music was not a thing that you only did if you were special. It was a thing that was available to everybody in the community in some way or another. And being as close as I was to Muscle Shoals and, to Patterson's dad, David Hood, and to the crew of people who had made records at Muscle Shoals, and to the Hall family and the recording studios, when I got up in my teens, I just started following them around and asking them dumb questions all the time. And they were so patient with me, it didn't occur until later on in my life that was not part of their job. They were working, they were trying to stay, but people like Spooner Oldham and Donnie Fritz, and especially David, I was just a shadow for those folks when I was growing up. And, now I kind of cringe to think at some of the questions I asked, and they were patient. Like I remember asking David, how do you do this? How do you get there? How do you get to the point where you're a musician and that's your only job, And he would say, like, show up on time, make sure all your gear works, be nice. That's it. I was like, I want the magic, David. He was like, that's the magic.
Yeah, that was the only things David Hood did. Show up on time and be nice.
If you ask David, that is all he was capable of doing, but we all know a little bit different.
Well, what you're saying is so interesting to me, both of you, because talking about making music with your family and with your friends, and talking about being in a community where there's a lot of diversity, but there's also this kind of sense that you're all kind of in it together. It's so different than, let's just confess, we all have connections to Nashville, right? Nashville, the land of looking over your shoulder to see if anybody more important is over there that you can talk to. I love Nashville, but it's a great town of working musicians, but it does have that industry aspect. So I wondered, especially Jason, what you were just saying, that ease with which David or Donnie or any of those guys treated you, it's the flip side maybe of everybody being an amateur musician, is that even the pros feel equal or connected. They don't feel like I have to put a wall up. Is that what you experienced?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of ego connected to it, And among people my own age, that was different because we were growing up together and we were competing with each other in our own minds, But these guys didn't think they had anything to prove. And I think music for them, as much as it was a job, it was also sort of an offering, and a celebration of the fact that they could do something with their friends. They would get together. That house Patterson was talking about, they would have big parties there, and these guys would come and play, and it would be, like Delbert McClinton would show up, or Bonnie Bramlett would show up, or Jack Pearson would come down from Nashville, and I would be like a teenager watching these folks thinking, they've been playing for 4 or 5 hours. They're not getting paid to do this. This is their day off, And I think they just really loved making music so much that they didn't view it as, a way to separate themselves from me or anybody else.
Didn't the Swampers used to play at the Marriott on Tuesday nights or something?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Patterson was talking about the Handy Festival. I saw some world-class legendary musicians at Chili's.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We didn't have a lot of venues.
But for you, it was different. You were not immersed in the Shoals scene growing up. As I know it, and certainly I know it from a distance, your story feels, of coming into music, feels a lot more like indie rock. That's a weird term to use. But, people from all over the country in small towns who have to go to the record store to find their soulmates, go to check out who's wearing a certain button and by your locker in high school. Can you talk a little bit about how you found your people, your music people?
Yeah, that's true. In school, I was interested in a type of music not a lot of people found popular. I don't know what you would call it, just alternative types of music. And then so usually I find music through friends, because I didn't really, CDs were like $14 a piece. There's no way that's happening back, And so I would hang out with people who had good CDs. That's how you do it. So I had a friend, and she liked Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd. And I'd be like, yeah, it's good music. And I didn't know about it. I was like 14 years old, I didn't know about it. And so I'd be like, you give me a ride home from school today? And I'd listen to Pink Floyd. And we had the big CD binders, So I couldn't borrow any, it could mess up the organization. But that's how I found out about a lot of groups. And I started getting really curious and started getting into all kinds of music, prog rock, started getting into King Crimson and Yes. And there was always so much I didn't know, and I was so endlessly curious. And then there's this kid walking down the halls of my school, this is high school, and he had on like a shirt, this group called At the Drive-In. Yeah, they're like this really cool group, and one of them groups, they scream their heads off, and I liked that stuff. And I was like, who's this guy? And this guy was Zach Cockrell. We went to the same school together since, kindergarten, but I never talked to him. He's a little older than me. And I remember I had a demo CD, and I remember being so shy. I knew he played bass, but he was older than me, And I remember being so shy to show him this. But I was like, hey, I play music too, I got a demo. He's like, oh yeah, let's check it out. We go to his Honda Accord, put it in the CD player, terrible demo tape, but he heard the potential. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll play with you. And I was like, and to me, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I got somebody to play with now. Previously, I had taught myself how to play all the instruments, just listening to the CDs and whatever I heard. And now I got a buddy. Me and Zach, we could agree that we like this old school kind of music as well. And we found ourselves offered a gig with this really great band. They were called Tuco's Pistol. And they were so good. They were playing Prince, they were playing David Bowie, they were playing all kinds of stuff, Talking Heads, and I thought it was so cool. And they asked us to open for them, but their guitar player, he fought. That's who I wanted. And when they asked me to open, I was like, well, we need a little help. We need another guitar player to help us out, for 30 minutes, And he was like, I'll help you. And I was like, yes. That's kind of how it started, just slowly locking down everybody one by one.
It's like in Stranger Things, you're finding the people who are going to save the world with you.
Yeah, it's like Pokemon. You got to catch them all. And I'll tell you what, as soon as we put us together, we found our drummer Steve at the only music store in town, Railroad Bazaar. And he was a cashier, and I was like, yo, you play drums? And we got it together, and we played that show. And that's when we knew, oh, we got to play another show. And I just got more curious now about playing shows, playing live, singing live. And I'll tell you what's full circle. And then I'll quit talking. What's full circle is I remember driving by truckers from North Alabama. And I remember seeing them touring around the world. And I remember saying, if they can do it, maybe we can do it. Big inspiration.
They're inspirational. Well, before we move on from this period, I want to note you both have talked about how you sought solace in music as kids. That it created a world for you. Jason, you've talked about when your parents were fighting and you would go into your room and turn your amp up all the way. And Brittany, after the loss of your sister and how much music meant to you then. This is a hard thing to ask an adult about what their head was like as a kid, but I'm just curious, how did you make the step from this is my world to I want to pursue this with others? And now for you, you were always playing with others, but how did you negotiate the part of your artistry, even as kids, that was you, for you, versus I'm connecting, I want to tour, I want to be in a band? How do those things connect?
I think for me, I started out just playing the guitar, and I didn't think I was going to be a singer. And I started writing songs pretty early, but like I would take old songs and rewrite the lyrics to those. And then it sort of clicked that I could like play, I would improvise on the guitar, and if I found a melody that I liked.
So you would take old other people's songs and rewrite the lyrics?
I started off doing that. Yeah, I would take old songs and rewrite the lyrics, But then after a while, I remember wondering, like, how am I going to come up with a melody? That's the part, because I was reading a bunch. Mom, who is here tonight, hi, Mom, had me reading a lot and really early. And, I felt like I could express myself verbally and musically, but to get a vocal melody going was a difficult thing for me. It took me a long time. And what I started doing was I would, like, play, like lead guitar, basically, for lack of a better term. And then I would think, oh, this part sounds good. I think I'll sing that part. And I would sing that part and start putting words to that, But early on, I was just in other people's bands. Like the first real band that I was in, my best friend in high school, Chris Tompkins, who now has written like 17 #1 country songs, but we grew up together. And Chris got asked to be in a band and play piano in this band. And he said, if my friend Jason can come play the guitar, I'll join your band. So they let me join the band. And we wound up doing all these like Battle of the Band contests. And, I had a little bolo necktie and a cowboy hat and a little vest, Yeah, I did. I went all in, I went all in. I still love a theme. I do.
That's how you win the Battle of the Bands. Got to have a theme.
There's videos. Mama, don't show them the videos. But, I still feel like if I'm in a situation where you're telling me what to do, like if I come in to play guitar on something, I love it. I love it so much. If I don't have a microphone in front of me, I love it. And I also seem to do pretty good in situations where I'm writing all the songs and I'm making most of the decision. Anything in the middle confuses the hell out of me. I don't know how to negotiate creativity. Still to this day, I don't really know how to do it. I've gotten better at letting go of that, but I think even as a kid, probably because I developed just first as a musician, thinking that that's what I was always going to do is just play guitar, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I might want to have a different kind of voice too.
It is different sort of parts of your emotional intelligence, negotiating those different parts,
It's so different. It's so different.
Yeah. It's like writing and editing for someone like me. It's completely different things. But Brittany, I've always wondered what that demo sounded like, the one you gave Zach. Like, was it just you and a guitar? Was it like your version of Pink Floyd? Like you were finding computer versions of synths or using Ableton or something? I don't know.
It sounded like gigabytes and hexabytes. It sounded crazy, but the vision was there. Like, if you have very special ears on, you could hear what I was trying to do. It was fully fleshed out.
It was ahead of its time. It was ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time.
Well,
Year 3000, it'll be great.
See, when you're 80 and you're doing your archival reissues the way Joni is now, Joni Mitchell is now, you can put it on there.
Maybe.
Well, something, Brittany, you said in another interview that you did, an amazing interview with this podcaster named Helga. That was an amazing interview. Everyone should listen to it. If you just search Helga and Brittany, you'll find it. You said that as a younger person, you didn't feel emotions for a while because where you came from, they weren't useful. Yet from the very first songs that I heard, I mean, I remember driving around Tuscaloosa playing that first Shakes. I get kind of choked up thinking about it and just singing, "Hold on, Brittany," like over and over again, and just feeling that. That vulnerability and openness was there. And just like, was music, how did you step from your protectiveness into your vulnerability as a young artist?
Well, when I first started making music, it wasn't really for anybody to hear it. It was more like I could create my own world where I was in control of the moving pieces, and I could express myself with like this new kind of palette. It's a sonic palette, and I was in control of this landscape. And that to me gave me solace. It gave me a place to express my emotions, even though at the time I didn't really know that's what I was doing. Right. It became really cathartic for me, and it gave me power, made me feel like I was worthwhile because I could make this. Even if anybody didn't like it, if anybody never heard it, it was like something I really enjoyed doing. And I would sit in my bedroom, and I'd have like this old clunky white computer. It was this big old computer. It wasn't even a Pentium 1. It's called a Pentium R. And I don't know what that means. It was a free computer. And I would make all these songs on it, all these parts. And that's what I spent hours and hours doing, you know. And so when it was time to let people hear it, I mean, to be honest with you, I was just really happy anybody wanted to hear it at all. I wasn't trying to hide it, or I wasn't ashamed of it. It just was what it was.
And Jason, when you were only 21, you started working at Fame, right? So
I did, yeah.
Yeah, and that fact is noted in every profile that's written of you, but nobody ever talks about what you were doing there.
That's because I don't know what I was doing there.
But they were paying you just to hang out.
They did. I had been waiting tables, and then they gave me a draw to write for their publishing staff there. And I was so excited and, took that deal and turned in so many songs, on time. I always had plenty of songs to turn in. I would come in and demo the songs. And they loved the songs, but they were like, I don't think Tim McGraw's going to sing this. What they were used to doing was pitching songs to producers and to artists and stuff. And that's not the kind of thing I was writing. I was writing some sad music. They were like, I don't want to tell you this is not good, but this is just not exactly what we're used to. And they were kind about that. And, eventually, thanks to Patterson and his band, I think they made their money back, But for a while there, it was kind of touch and go. I was like, how long am I going to be able to keep this con going, But, being around that studio and those musicians and engineers and producers, it was a really fantastic thing for me. And we would do little sessions where it would be like, we would record things and basically treat it as though it was a mastered, like actual radio or record recording. And Rick, God bless him, Rick would treat us as though we were 50 years old and professional musicians, and we would be teenagers, and he would be like, that sucks, you're terrible. Go out in the hall and get whoever else is here and get them to come in here and play it, But I'm so grateful for that, because I got experience in studios. Really, before I got much live experience on tour, I was in there recording. And, if you can sit still and you can play a guitar and keep it in tune and get all the way through a song with Rick Hall looking over your shoulder, you can play live on stage at TT the Bears in Boston, Massachusetts after 26 beers,
But as far as you writing sad songs that were too sad for Fame, I mean, Dark End of the Street is kind of sad, and so is Patches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. Now, a lot of those songs, the ones that I really were drawn to were terribly depressing, and I used to think if I'd come along in the 70s or something, I would have had much more success, and then I realized, no, I would have been very dead.
So you also alluded, Brittany, to when the Shakes started, that although you were listening to prog rock and indie rock and alt rock and at the drive-in, and I don't know what your bandmates listened to, but it was really like the old vintage R&B that connected you. Is that right? And you also have said, Jason, that you have felt, as you just were saying now, like that maybe you were bored. You're a man out of time. Like you were. So how did you take the essence or the values of that music, I don't know if values is the right word, aesthetics, but bring it up into the 21st century? How do you work with that today? I mean, your sound, actually both of you, I hear so many different moments and eras in each of your sounds. And in Weather Vanes, I hear the Beatles, And what you do, I hear spiritual jazz and Curtis Mayfield, but also, I don't know, like new, there's the bowls and then the very ancient future kind of stuff. So how do you bring the essence of that classic, the music we associate with the shoals into what you do without sounding dated or, retro?
Well, for me, that's where I got my first education, was on records like that. Even further back, like the Supremes and certain kind of doo-wop groups that my grandma was into. And at the same time, I go to my other grandma's house, Mama Helen's house. She's playing Teddy Pendergrass, and she's playing gospel music, and I just absorbed everything. And I knew that when we got together, for example, with the Shakes, right, with the four of us, we all had different likes and interests. But one thing we could agree on is we do love this kind of music, the soul music. And also having Muscle Shoals next door, we were hugely inspired by just having an incredible rhythm section. It was really important to us. And we were all really detail-oriented and wanted to learn these songs bit by bit. How do you think he's doing that? Oh, I think he's got the tone knob rolled back and the switch on. I think that's how he's making that sound. Okay. Then we found out about flat wounds, and now we're doing flat wounds. And, we were just so studious about it. So I couldn't help but have that DNA in my music, And I think a lot of artists that, like, even from the 80s, 90s, were still referencing stuff from back then. And I think it just goes on. Like, it's a tradition at this point. You got to stop by this little area and learn what you can from it. But truly, I love the music. I love soul music. I love soul singers. I love rhythm sections. I love musicians, players in general. I think there's always something to learn from somebody. And so it makes its way into what I do, of course.
Yeah, I still think a lot of that R&B is the best, musical art America ever gave the world. I listen to it and it moves me more than anything else, But what I have found as I've gotten older is, for me to be successful as an original artist, it means for me to have as many influences as possible, so I'm not hanging on one for too long. So you can hear it and you can say, that reminds me of, and then before you get it out, I'm reminding you of something different real quickly. And I love to make choices in the studio and with the songwriting, really, that could have been made 50 or 60 years ago, but weren't. If I can find those spots, then I feel like this is not retro, because I'm not trying to sound like they sounded. I'm just trying to use the same tools they had. Right. And that's helped me a lot. Early on, that was difficult, because I didn't really have like my rules for how I write and how I record and how I work. As I've gotten older and done it more often, that's become sort of second nature. And a lot of what I do when I'm building something is I have a rule, I have rules of things to ignore until it's time to pay attention to them. So if I remind myself too much of something, if I'm sitting there writing happy birthday, I'm going to keep writing happy birthday, because I'll get another chance to go back and change it later. I don't want to slow that process down. If I sound too much like one of my favorite records, I'll keep sounding like it for the time being, because to me, like you were talking about the difference between writing and editing, you can't really do both at the same time, or I can't. Some people might, but I just have to let it come out and not get in its way, and then I can go back and change things the way I need to.
Well, that's such a, please, that's so profound and so right. I think also, I wonder, once you've had some success, and I know your road to success was complicated, and then it was fast and slow and fast and slow. Your road was pretty fast once it started. That can put a lot of pressure on you to edit all the time, I suppose, to try to replicate what you've done before. But both of you stepped outside and said, no, I'm not going to continue in that path. So that was a hard decision?
No, not for me. I knew what I wanted to do, because, they always say you got your whole life to write your first album, And so we did, the Shakes, Alabama Shakes did the Boys and Girls album. And it was very much like thank you. It was like garage rock and soul, and that's what we were doing. And it was super fun. And we had already been playing them songs for a long time. So when it came time to do Sound and Color, I was like, well, people don't know this, but there's like so many things that I'm into. And I think it'd be cool to make something that they are not expecting, you know? And it was so fun. And I got to be curious. I got to explore. I got to just really reference just a lot of music I love. Like, you know, I think it's important, too, to just listen to as much stuff as you can, you know? It's all useful. Even if it sounds bad, it's useful, you know, not to do that, you know? And there was never a part of me that wants to say, oh, maybe I should go back to what I was doing because that was successful, that was well received. I don't know, I don't think I think that way. I think like I'm endlessly curious about music, and I know I'll never figure it out. You know, there's no mastery.
And you felt supported in that by the people surrounding you.
Very supported. It was amazing. Like the fans took to it, and it encouraged me to keep making music that I find interesting. You know.
And I think, Jason, for you in your story, there is that watershed moment. The moment you'd already written timeless songs, but the Southeastern moment was a moment. And working toward that album, did your writing practice change? Obviously, you had gotten sober, so that changed just a lot of things. But did your practice change, your daily practice to get those songs?
Oh, yeah. My daily practice sprung into existence at that point. It actually, it was born when I got sober. Before that, there was nothing daily other than drinking, you know. But I feel like I got so lucky. All of it was such a gift, even the lowest possible times, you know, because all of a sudden I had something to talk about, and I had the time to refine that and say it the way I wanted to say it. And I had a story to tell people that I could tell honestly. And if you're telling them something honestly, you can wrap it up however you want, you know. And I think that's the thing about Brittany's music that gets me is like, you know, the what it is, genre-wise or like influence-wise, like I can't quite, it's slippery. I can't, as soon as I think I know what kind of music you make, that changes. And I love it so much. And the reason I think that I'm able to follow that is because I feel like you're always telling me the truth. Yeah. That's the trick. And all of a sudden when I got sober, it became, you know, you would have thought that this would have been more important to me all along, but it became very important to me to tell the truth. Maybe because for the first time in my life, I was proud of what the truth was. And so I started really telling the truth in every aspect of everything. Once you do that, you're free. You're free to do whatever you want, you know, make whatever kind of music you want to make.
And I think that each of you incorporates elements of, specifics from Alabama into your writing in different ways. You obviously often make references, lyrical references to places, stories, you know.
I write with a map. I write with a map next to me.
I'm serious, though.
I don't want to get anybody lost.
But, and then with you, Brittany, I feel like it's more like your lyrics are poetic in a different way. Sometimes on Jamie, you definitely were telling family stories. But on the most recent work, which is about heartbreak and recovery and healing, I still hear Alabama and something about the groove, the time, the funk, something. So I guess I'm asking you how Alabama is in this latest work. It's in what now?
I mean, I can't get Alabama out of me because, like, I was made from this stuff. Like, I'm red clay, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was playing in it. My mama told me not to eat the poke salad berries, and I didn't, you know? I was getting chased by water moccasins, and that's just in me, you know? And I remember waking up, in the early 90s, I remember waking up, and my great aunt, Brenda, would be playing, like, 90s country music. And that's the first thing I'd hear in the morning. And I never could understand what they were talking about. It was a real small speaker, but I could kind of understand the vibe. And I'd just be like, yeah, it's a beautiful country morning, you know? Like, it's just part of me. It's part of me. I love it. I love it here. I love the people here. And I don't know. There's like a lot of amazing musicians, poets, and artists that come from here. And it's like the South is always in them. Because like, you know, like you was talking about, the South has a thing, you know, and it's hard to put it into words. I've written about it and I've thought about it, I've sat down and talked about it. It's always hard for me to articulate, you know? It's in the molecules.
And style-wise, I feel that you've worked closer to Sun Ra than maybe you were in the initial early days. I wonder if Sun Ra is a style icon for you.
Oh yeah, style icon, just an icon in general, really. One of one, the whole Afrofuturist movement. Like, I don't think it would be a movement without Sun Ra. Yeah.
Well, we want to hear a little music. We're going to hear a little music in a moment. But before we do that, I do want to ask just some site-specific questions. So I was lucky enough to see you when you opened for the Truckers on that first tour. And I swear to God, I've never seen anyone react to a band the way we reacted to the Shakes that night at the Bama Theater in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Roll Tide, Roll Tide.
And you sold every single piece of merch. That line was up the stairs.
That's crazy.
And I was like, what? And then the next day you played at this little podcast, Well, That's Cool, Bo Hicks, who, if anybody knows Bo from Tuscaloosa. But, right on. But so I got to be there for that. And then my husband, Eric Weisbard, was there when you played your first night with the Truckers.
The very first show.
He was the guy from Spin who was there.
It was so exciting. I remember they were like, Eric from Spin is here. And I was like, don't tell me that before the show. Yeah.
Well, he was impressed. But I will say, I bring this up to say, there is also something special. There is something special about these venues in the South that are like, from a house party to a podcast that's like being taped above a shoe store or whatever in some side street, to the Bama Theater, the Alabama Theater. And I just wanted to ask you to mention some of your favorite places you played in Alabama in your formative years.
All right, Callahan's.
Good cheeseburger. Good cheeseburger.
Good cheeseburger. Great venue, great folks. We'll go back and forth. Your turn.
I want to say the Nick first. I got to say the Nick. You know the Nick.
Yeah.
You know the Nick.
That's a great one.
That's so good.
Egan's Bar in Tuscaloosa.
Egan's. Yeah.
I think they had some kind of reunion.
It's not there anymore, is it?
I don't think it's there no more. Yeah.
Oh, what do we used to play Willie Toller's place in Tuscaloosa. What was that one called? I think it's more of a college bar now, but the Chucker. Ooh, the Chucker. Yeah, but I mean, when we would play the college towns, there would actually be some like college people there, so that was really exciting.
Yeah.
For the drive-by truckers.
Definitely.
Did you ever play at Gibbs Place in Birmingham?
I know what it is. I never played it. Yeah.
So what about that house party? What do you remember of house parties? You're so far beyond house parties now. I don't know.
Me?
Maybe you come to my house and play a party.
I don't know that I would say I'm beyond house parties. I think I just can't handle them anymore.
Yeah. Get out my house party. You know what I mean?
Yes. That first one at Dick Cooper and Scott Boyer's place with Patterson, I just remember sitting there for the first like third of their show and thinking, I think if they take a break, I'm just going to go tell them I can play the guitar parts on this. Like it was just going through my head over and over and over and over. And finally they took a break and I went up to Patterson. I was like, you need somebody to play the third guitar on this, I can do that. And he was like, fine, so because we had been hanging out and playing music together before for 8 or 9 months, maybe a year, and I was so excited. And then I was in the van the next day. We did that spin thing. We did a photo shoot. They put me in the creek. It was November, and they put me in the creek, and they were all on the bridge up over my head. And the hardest part of that was to try to talk Cooley out of peeing off of the bridge into the creek while I was standing. To his credit, they were able to talk him out of doing that. And then it was off to Oklahoma.
And that, my friends, is an education in music, right there.
A quick
Well,
one.
well, I want to let y'all share some music with us, but I do want to talk about one big house party that just happened that you played at, Jason, the Democratic National Convention. And I just offer you the chance to reflect on that experience.
You know, it was incredible. It was one of those things where I couldn't believe that they had asked me to do that, you know, because I thought nobody is going to know who I am. You know, I mean, I knew some people that, you know, I had some friends there, and I knew some people who were, like, especially from the South, like Doug Jones texted me that day. Doug, we love Doug. And he was like, you think you could work in a shout out to your Alabama delegation tonight? And I was thinking, Doug, man, I love you, but that's a lot. And sure enough, I got done with the song. I was like, all right, Doug. But it was such a huge honor to be there and see all that and be able to participate in that moment. And you know, and before I went on stage, I was a little bit rattled because I was thinking, you know, somebody had texted me and said, what channel is this on? What network is this on? And I said, it's on all of them. And and then I thought, oh, it's on all of them, you know. And it started getting my head a little bit, you know. And but then it hit me. It's like, no, you're going to miss this. If you're worried about not messing it up, you're going to miss it. So you're not allowed to do that. You're going to go out and you're going to sing your song. You've already done the work. You're going to celebrate the work that you've already done and the honor of being here. And so I actually was present for the 4 minutes that I was on that stage, and then for the rest of the night, you know, I got to feel that energy as people were speaking, and it was a huge honor for me, really.
And really, your performance fit so well with the whole mood and the sort of message of the convention. It was a perfect choice, perfect song choice as well.
Well, thank you. They asked for something patriotic. And I was like, my version of patriotic might not be exactly what everybody's used to, but how about this one?
Well, as an NPR employee, I am nonpartisan, so I'm not going to say anything political except for one thing, which is that I think if Kamala Harris is elected president, perhaps she could have a cabinet minister of music, and I want to nominate Brittany Howard. What do we think?
Vote for me. I can't lower your rent.
But you can give us something to listen to while we're contemplating our rent. And on that note, I think both of you have prepared a song to play tonight.
That's right.
Perhaps, should we flip a coin? Who wants to go first? Okay, Age Before Beauty. Jason's going first.
This is good that I get to go first. I don't have to follow Brittany. I'm very happy about that. Let's see. Don't wash the cast iron skillet. Don't drink and drive, you spill it. Don't ask too many questions or you'll never get to sleep. There's a hole inside you, fill it. Shower up and shave, put flowers on the grave and ask the Lord to save his soul, although you know that it's too late. Was it 27 times or was it 29? I heard the blade broke off inside the man and he took a while to die. How did you get so low? It seems like just a week ago we were 10 and 12 years old. And he was sweet and soft
He shied away from the inside fast walls and died doing life without parole. Don't wash the cast iron skillet. If that dog bites my kid, I'll kill it. Don't walk where you can't see your feet. And don't ask questions, just believe. Jamie found a boyfriend with smiling eyes and dark skin, and her daddy never spoke another word to her again. The old man at the quick stop, lying to the county cops and laughing like his soul was without sin. Tell me, how did you get so low? It seems like just a week ago she was sitting on your shoulders, watching fireworks in the sky. He treats her like a queen, but you don't know, 'cause you ain't seen. It's hard to go through life without your daddy by your side. Don't wash the cast iron skillet. This town won't get no better, will it? She found love and it was simple as a weather vane, but her own family tried to kill her. Don't wash the cast iron skillet. Don't wash the cast iron skillet. Don't wash the cast iron.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
There are miles between us, time between us. Oh, there's something between us. I may be a fool to dream of you, but God, it feels so good to dream it all. Something short and sweet. There's always a lot on my head for you. I'm waiting, I'm waiting. Time's always trying to kill me. There are mountains between us. There is time between us. Wait, there's something between us. Something short and sweet. I don't care if I should. Do you want to hurt me? 'Cause I've been hurting all alone. It didn't kill me, no, but it wasn't no fun. Come and get you some. Just the beginning. I only want the beginning. We'll give each other all of our best, and then time can do what it wants with it. There are mountains between us. There's time between us. Ooh, ain't there something between us? Something short and sweet. So why can't I wait? Why can't I wait? Why can't I think? Why can't I wake without you? Always appearing. Oh, I better not wait too long, 'cause time is gonna kill it. Time is gonna kill it. Time is gonna kill it. Time is gonna kill it.
Well, let's hear it for Jason Isbell and Brittany Howard. I think they deserve a standing ovation. We're being directed. Okay, the awkward moment. Public photograph.